So last weekend I threw a barbecue for some friends of mine. Every year I think I tend to do one. Just get together a bunch of my friends and have a good time, drink, laugh. There were like 5 dogs. My dog and like 3 other dogs. My dog literally had so much fun and was completely like enamored and so overwhelmed by how many dogs were in our backyard that like she fell asleep for like a billion hours the next day. It was great. My dog's a little puppy, so she's like super excitable. And anyways, but I had a friend of mine actually prior to him coming over, literally met a guy and purchased this next game for $5, and we played it, which is called Ultra Tiny Epic Kingdoms. Which sounds familiar because Tiny Epic Kingdoms and even the whole Tiny Epic series is an actual long-running series of games published by Gamelyn Games, with Scott Alms being the designer. There are also so many artists. I'm not even gonna try. Scott Alms even Scott Alms himself was listed as an artist. So there's just been a lot of people contributing to this whole series. And actually, I think, well, no, I played Tiny Epic Galaxies, but this was my first Tiny Epic Kingdoms within that whole fantasy realm that I played. And
I think this was the one that kind of put him on the map, right?
Yeah. Yes, it was.
Yeah.
Yep.
I backed it. Like, I backed the first one. It was great.
I saw you. I saw your name and your face on it because it can show it there. But anyways, so Tiny Epic Kingdoms, Ultra and just regular Tiny Epic still plays the same. But what's really cool is that this whole Ultra Tiny fits within like a whole packet of cards. Like, think of a 52 thing of cards. That's how small this game is, which is insane. Right? That's really cool. There's some special packing you need to do for, because it uses cubes instead of meeples. But everything kind of comes on a regular playing card. You have to, when you pack the game, you have to put all the cubes in on a single layer and like, just kind of shove it in there.
Yeah.
But
Is it too small?
no, I wouldn't say so.
All right.
Yeah, it's a very micro. I would say that it lives up to the name of being ultra tiny. Seriously. But I think the game's all there. And
Tell us how it plays.
I'll tell you how it plays. So at the beginning of the game, basically everybody takes a bunch of cubes. They pick a color. They get a bunch of the cubes. I was blue. And you take a faction or race card, and you take a terrain card. And the terrain card has mountains. It has wheat fields or food fields, has forests, and it has rivers and a bunch of other fun stuff. And the different factions and races that you can play are like dwarves, you can play as merfolk, you can play as humans, you can play as like your standard array of all different sizes and peoples and monsters, all what have you. And each of them have like their own ability. You also get like enchantment or an upgrade card for like different magics that you can buff yourself up with. And I think that's it. You get a cute little tower meeple to designate first player. It's really cutesy.
Cute.
And everybody, and also in the middle of the board, you have an action card, and the action card lists 1 of 5 actions that you can play, and that's how this game plays. So what's going to happen is that, during the game, you're going to basically have these little dudes that are hanging out on your terrain card, and any of your cubes that are on a specific piece of terrain gives you that type of resource. So the 3 main resources in this game is iron, which is red, or the mountain, or the ore, or brick, what have you. You have green, which is like the mana that you collect from forests. And then you have food, which is yellow, that you collect from the wheat fields. So out of the 5 things, you choose one. So you can either move, you can quest, you can reinforce, which is creating new dudes, you can build, or you can basically make a new guy. I don't know what the specific thing is, but you can basically populate a new guy onto your board. So when you move, essentially what you're doing is you're moving one of your little dudes on your terrain card from one terrain to another. When you quest, that actually takes a pawn from your, like, on the edge of the card. Like, sometimes the like terrains will, kind of hit the edge of the card. You can actually move it over to another person's terrain. So like you can quest onto someone else's to kind of gain territory on that card, which is pretty neat. You have, again, once the ability to build, which means that you can go ahead and start moving up this track as far as being able to have like a special thing that, or points, I think, accumulates at the end of the game for the more you build. And then you can also enchant, which means that, or you can like learn the magics where you can kind of increase your in the skill tree or this enhancement tree that gives you this asymmetrical taste of the game. Like, for instance, I was the dwarves. So the dwarves had this innate ability of being like, if you were higher up on the build track and someone else tried to build at your level, like they had to pay an extra ore to do that. And that was my own ability that no one else could have. So that was pretty cool. And like if someone used a trade action, or if you used a trade action, you could actually build instead. So that was a really powerful tool. Essentially, if you're the dwarves, you really kind of want to go hard in on building because you just have all these innate abilities to kind of like stick around in the mountains and be able to accumulate that resource and use that to your advantage. Like the merfolk, who was my friend, he was able to kind of have the ability of moving onto like a river or lake space without and getting like a material of his own choosing, while the rest of us, we couldn't move on to those spaces. We couldn't swim. So everybody just has this unique little twinge to how everybody plays. And yeah, so what ends up happening too is like you end up having people encroaching onto your terrain card, and what you can do is you can have like these little tiny epic battles. Go figure. And and what ends up happening is you kind of cover up your card and you end up wagering on this war track a certain number of resources, very similar to Scythe, where you have to kind of wager like these different cards and resources, and you reveal, and whoever has the most ends up winning, and then loses all those resources, and the other ends up losing their cube and what have you. So it ends up kind of becoming just, I don't know, a very easy way of being able to deal combat. And yeah, it's just like, think of a 4X game. I think it does a really great job of being able to, in your pocket, replicating a 4X game. Not too much.
It does.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was saying it did do a great job of it. I actually really enjoyed it. Thought it was super clever. I don't remember why I got rid of it. I traded it, and I don't even remember what I traded it for. No, I'm sure I traded it for something super worth it. But it was fun. I think if I found this for $10, I would totally buy it again. I think it does do a great job of kind of just distilling the elements of a 4X game down. It's not super heavy. It's not super complex. It has some good elements of tension, and it's just kind of light and easy. Yeah, I kind of want to hunt down a copy of this again, of the ultra tiny one.
Yeah. Interestingly, and I'm not sure if we missed up any of the rules or what have you, but I was able to turtle, and I actually won the game because I turtled, and I was like in this area in a terrain card where I had like 4 people hanging out in a forest and a mountain, and like the next terrain over, for some reason, I think it was part of the rules, or at least how it was instructed to me, is that you can't battle if you have 2 people in a specific terrain, like, or a specific area in a terrain. And so what ended up happening is like nobody could really take me over. No one could really fight me. So what ends up happening is I just sat there and I kind of just used the abilities of like being able to build first and really kind of honed in on that. And I really didn't do much of anything. It actually was a hindrance to some people to actually go out and try to fight people. And so, like I said, I was just able to kind of like hang out in my own part of the, my own side and just get what I needed to do and win, which kind of felt a tad bit anticlimactic. And not, like I said, I don't know whether there were some rules that we missed or if people just, for whatever reason, didn't see me as a threat and didn't feel like I could actually pull off the win as I did. But, so I am kind of interested in wanting to see if that, like, if I were to play the dwarves again with a different terrain card, what kind of position it puts me in. But beyond that, yeah, like I said, for $5, carry it around in your pocket. It easily works to play. I think gives you that. I think gives you what the title of the game says it's going to be. It's going to give you like this really kind of 4X tiny epic experience. And I actually looked for this game in its original big box form, quote unquote, because it even still is in a tiny box for what it is. and I'd love to play this game again. So yeah, cool. Props.
Ultra Tiny Epic Kingdoms by Gamelyn Games.